Well. I thought that I would jump on the notebook and journaling train and add to the stream of videos. I know that this train has been going on for a while, but I kind of wanted to start talking about things that I really enjoy. And I have been obsessed with books since I was very, very little. I remember when I was a kid, I would make these little comic books, I guess. Before I knew how to write or spell, I would draw these little comic books with little recurring characters, and I would staple these books together and kind of carry them around. I was effectively making zines before I even knew what those were. And I guess today I wanted to talk about how our journaling system has evolved throughout the years. Now, these are not all of our journals. These date as far back to, I think 2014 is the oldest one we have. 2015 is the oldest one we have. And all of our previous journals to that are currently in storage. We don't have access to it right now, but I'm sure that I'll be able to go into storage and get them at some point. Currently, this is our system right now. I built this from some materials at Michael's using some leather and some glue and some push pins, poking holes in these, using elastic bands, very simple. And then I made these notebooks myself with Toma River paper and Trader Joe's bags, literally, as the covers. And this paper is from Blix. You can get this sort of decorative paper from Blix. So right now, we're kind of at a phase of kind of DIY journaling. Before, I used to buy moleskins, and here, I thought I would go and show you what I have. So this is now, let's go back in time a little bit, to 2015, which is our oldest. So this was a gift to us. This was from 2015. This is a Little Prince moleskin daily diary. And it was, I don't think they make these anymore, which is a shame because I really like the Little Prince and I like this design. And this is a unusually large notebook. I normally don't use notebooks this large, even back in the day. Obviously now I enjoy much smaller notebooks, but before we used to kind of it was sort of a struggle to fill the page, and I can sort of flip through a little bit. I might do a later video where I actually do go through the notebooks in more detail. But I'd fill them with drawings, I'd fill them with observations and poems. I was watching a movie, and in the darkness of the movie I would scribble on the page, and sort of like if a character was moving in a certain direction, I would follow that. Kind of funny, weird stuff like that. I was doing like weird scientific diagrams for stories I was writing at the time. Sort of, stuff like that. And it was a struggle to fill the page because the page is really large. You could see at some points, like, I kind of gave up a little. And the problem for me with these, as much as I like the moleskins, is it just got harder to fill the page. And also, there's a page for every single day. So if there were days where I didn't really feel like writing anything, it would just be blank. And then at a certain point, I just stop. So look at all these pages that haven't been filled in. And same thing with these ones. Now these ones go to, this is 2016. I think the same thing happens here, where towards the end, I start writing in a smaller notebook here, and then I would just tape it inside to kind of fill the pages. I felt I didn't like that there were so many empty pages. And I think, you could see here it continues like that for, I don't know, did I ever finish any of these? No, look at this. Yeah, these are all, this too. Yeah, looks like, oh wait, no. Did we finish it? Oh, we stopped at December. Yeah, that's a shame. But, I found that as much as I like the size, and I like how it, once you fill the whole year, you can see how there's a lot of devotion in the beginning of the year, and then it kind of tapers off. I found that the pressure of having to fill in every single day was a little too much. I didn't like it, and it's not that I couldn't do it, but there is something psychologically about knowing that, feeling as if I had to fill in every single day. So eventually what we ended up doing, I transitioned to these. I think this is a Leuchtturm. Yes, this is a Leuchtturm 1917 A7 size. They don't make these anymore that I've seen. I know that Moleskine might have also had this size. I'm not sure, but neither of these companies now make this size. And the reason I started using smaller and smaller notebooks was because I got a job that required me to stand for 8 hours a day, which meant I can't sit down at a desk and write. But I could carry a little pocket notebook with me, and I could write. If I had little ideas, I would write them while standing. And so that kind of facilitated the transition from these larger notebooks, these A6s, to the A7s. It fit in my pocket, it fit in my jacket pocket, in my back pocket, anything like that. I can carry a tiny little pen, for example, like this. This is a really small pen, but I would carry a little pen with me, and then I would write little notes. And it was because of the job that I have, the day job that I have, that kind of forced me to adapt to this style. And also, if you notice, my handwriting got smaller and smaller because of it. So look at how tiny this is. I think this one's even smaller, actually. No, this is where's the other one? Not that one. Yeah, there we go. This is extremely, extremely tiny handwriting. And I kind of wanted to go over the way I use these notebooks now. I'm currently working on a novel. I have been working on a novel since I was about 14, 13. I first wrote like a story, and I had an idea for a story when I was 10 years old. I actually have a physical book that I made when I was 10 years old. I created this fantasy story, and I wrote it by hand in a little on sheets of paper. Then I stapled the sheets of paper together, and I bound a little tiny book. And so I'm one of those people who kind of stands by writing the manuscripts by hand and then typing them out digitally. I know a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people like to type the ideas. My problem with typing and being 100% digital when it comes to manuscripts is that I tend to go back and edit them. And I'll go back and edit and edit and edit, and I won't get very far. So I found that writing by hand prevents me from doing that. And then I'll type it out digitally just to have a digital copy, but I'll tell myself I can't touch the digital manuscript until the whole first draft is done. Now, I have never finished I have never finished a novel in all the years I've been trying to write one. And I've had many different novel ideas throughout the years, but I've never finished one. And so this year, recently, as we started to get more into these pocket notebooks, I've been kind of rethinking my system and pondering on it a little bit and trying to figure out what works the best for me. I've kind of made the decision to really work at my current system until I have my first draft. But yeah, so what I often wrote about was I would write story notes. That's often what I wrote about. Let's see here. Is there anything in this? No. Where did the other one go? Aha, here it is. It was hiding. Yeah, so these are notes from an older story. But I would get very scientific with it. I would draw diagrams. I would write notes. I would write poems, in character or sort of about the stories. Now this is like really weird paper. This is stone paper, which is great for ballpoint pens, but terrible for fountain pens, I will say. But it's waterproof, which is great, and also tear-proof. Although you can tear it. It's kind of like ripping plastic a little bit. It's very interesting material. But yeah, see, I would draw these graphs and I would make all these diagrams, and I'd be very analytical with all of it. Here, this is the notebook for a current novel that I'm currently working on. But yeah, what I used to do, these I would say are closer to commonplaces or even Zibaldones. But I would say this is more of a commonplace book because this specific book is devoted to the current novel I'm working on. And so everything I write in here, with a few exceptions, are about that story. So I would say this is a commonplace for that novel, in a sense. And I used to compartmentalize all of my notes into close to like 10 different notebooks, which was excessive. You know, I would have a notebook that was a diary. I would have a notebook that was a planner. And then I'd have, like, I tried the Hobonichi a little bit, you know. It's fine. I don't like the size. Again, I'm a pocket notebook person. This is a little harder for me to carry around without a bag. And I would just end up writing what I had to do and what I did do. But you can see, like, compared to other people who use Hobonichis, I didn't do very much. I really just wrote what I did. And this was a Hobonichi. It was the Mega with the extra pages at the back. I tore them out and I turned those pages into this little pocket notebook that I would fit in this Me Notes cover. This is a Me Notes microbook. You can get these on Amazon. And I was using these for a couple years prior to using the Lockbee. I ripped the tag out, but this is a Lockbee pocket journal, the mini pocket journal. And right now I use it as a wallet. And I have a little catch-all for like things I need to do, whatnot. But yeah, I was using this for a while. And very, very recently, I made my own traveler-style notebook, and this is what I'm currently using. And I really like this so far. I wish I could make it a little bit more perfect, but yeah, I can kind of flip through some older ones too. Yeah, I had notebooks that were sketchbooks. I had notebooks that were commonplaces. This is me trying to write a manuscript instead of a tiny, tiny little A7. I was going to write it in parts. Yeah, and I think this is a commonplace as well. I do think, though, according to other notebook people on YouTube, technically what I've been doing is I've been making zibaldones. If you're not sure, if you don't know what zibaldones are, they're basically hodgepodges. I think it's Italian for salad. Most people, what they think commonplaces are, they're actually zibaldones. Commonplaces tend to be devoted to one specific topic. Zibaldones are kind of anything. They're notebooks, diaries, planners, commonplaces, all in one notebook. And so that's kind of effectively what I had been doing for a very long time, until I learned the definition of those words. And yeah, these are all the notebooks I filled. And I found that I really thrive off of not being tied to a schedule of having to write every single day, and instead writing when I feel like it. But what ended up happening is now I feel like I want to write every day about anything, at any time. These were from 2021, I want to say. And yeah, we were kind of doing the same thing here. But I think you'll notice that my handwriting also changes. Here are the notebooks that I was using while at this job. So I was using these in my pocket, these, and these, and even this one. What's interesting is that, of course, the notebook facilitates the size of my handwriting. It also, I feel, facilitates the type of notes that I take because of the amount of space that I have. I mean, this is ridiculous. Recently, I've been kind of trying to return to form by I was looking at these and sort of was entranced by the size of the handwriting, the fact that I wrote in all capitals instead of cursive. It was much easier for me to read this than it was for me to read, obviously, something like this. I can read this, but you know, it's kind of hard for me to see something interesting at first glance because I have to like really like look closely at it. Whereas this one, I can open a page and be like, oh, what's that? You know, and sort of I found that it was easier for me to go back and find notes that were much more interesting to me and copy them into my newer book and kind of remember old things that I used to write. So I used to write with a ballpoint pen. I had another smaller pen. I don't know where it is right now. And this book is a little big, but I kind of like it. I kind of like the tallness of it because it allows me to make, you know, I was teaching myself tarot, so it allowed me to make these sort of charts, lists of each card. I could fit the entire deck on one page, and I could use that to study the cards. And then I was creating my own playing card system, oracle system, and that's what this is. So I was able to fit all 52 cards on one page, which was kind of nice. I liked the size of this. Although I do find this a little cumbersome to take around nowadays. I kind of am now a die-hard A7 fan, and I do kind of wish I could have a larger notebook that I could take around with me everywhere I go, but not only has the job facilitated the notebook size, the type of bag I carry has facilitated the notebook size. I now use like one of these EDCs, and this fits great. You know, I can fit this. I also have a deck of cards. I have my little planner. I have a little daily planner here, teeny tiny little pocket daily planner, which is great for me. I like this. Yeah, and everything fits in here. It's a little harder. I mean, if I take this out, then I could fit, this notebook. But I like to have a deck of cards on me, or a camera. Sometimes I'll put a camera in here, or I'll even put this I have a little pocket watercolor set here. And this I could fit in here with the notebook. So I always like to have an extra little thing. And yeah, a bigger notebook won't fit with all that stuff. I mean, maybe I could fit this with like yeah, this fits with some watercolors. Not with the deck of cards though. Let's check the camera. Let's see if the camera will fit. Yeah, that fits. So, this size might be okay. But ideally, I like to fit my whole life on a teeny tiny little notebook. I don't know why. I like the portability of it. My favorite place in the world is my desk. This is where I do my work. This is where I read. This is where I do a lot of my creative thinking. But also, my day job is where I do a lot of my creative thinking. Arguably, I do most of my creative thinking at my day job than I do at my desk. Because of that, because I can't take my desk with me everywhere I go, obviously, I kind of think of ways I can carry that with me in a pocket version. And so I think of this as like my pocket desk, my creative workstation. So I like that. I like that idea. Yeah, so with previous stories I had, the story where you saw all these diagrams, where did it go? This one here. And additionally, there might be some notes in this one too. But the story with a bunch of diagrams and a bunch of, stuff like that. I think I have some other, oh yeah, I have all these loose papers. I did enjoy that the Moleskine had pockets that I could put things into, but look at these wild notes. Now this, right now, to me, in this day, this is from 11 years ago, this is kind of indecipherable, unless I really sat down and looked at all of it. But I was previously writing a science fiction story that kind of, I guess, led to me creating all of these diagrams. I couldn't tell you what any of it is now, what any of it means. But now I'm not writing a science fiction story. Right now I'm writing a sort of gothic family story, sort of a horror. Not quite, but, I would say gothic is the best word for it. So I'm not doing as many diagrams. I'm now doing more, sort of things like this, where it's, I do plot the story structure. I don't do this anymore, but before, for a while, I was really obsessed with tracking the story structure again and again and again, so that I knew it like the back of my hand, and that I knew exactly what was going to happen next, no matter where I was. I previously wrote this as a screenplay, and then I'm now converting it into a novel. So I know the entire story. I know what's going to happen, beginning, middle, and end. But yeah, I would do stuff like this, where I would, draw a picture of the character, and then I would pick a song that I felt sort of reflected them. I'd write a certain section of the song, the lyrics of it, and then I wrote a letter as that character to another character who was important to them. I used to put pictures and stuff like that. I would write poems, every single scene that occurs in the story. I do more things like that now. I'm very much focused on character, and that affects the things I write about, not just about my stories, but also the way I write in my daybook. I'm now writing more poetry instead of being more scientifically analytical. I'm writing more sort of almost these sketches, I try to be a bit more spontaneous with the things that I write in my daybook now. But yeah, you'll notice that, like, for a while, I was kind of obsessed with writing neatly. This is extremely, it's legible. It's just very small, that's why it's hard to read. But it's very neat, extremely neat. But then you look at something like this, where there's, like, a looseness to it. And I would scratch out bits here and there, like, let's see, like that, and like this. And I prefer the looseness of this. I think I like the fact that I could just write messy. And I think there's something very pretty about the messy handwriting. I find this much more aesthetically pleasing than this. This just looks psychotic, I think. This is wild. It's pretty. Some people find it very pretty, and I know there are a lot of notebook people out there who do write like this, who write this small in their notebooks, and they'll have giant notebooks like this, filled with that size handwriting. That's a bit much. I don't do that, but I do. I'm trying to kind of return to form. Now, here are my notes for this video. But yeah, this still might look psychotic to some people, but at least I'm trying to sort of write a little bigger. When I catch myself writing too tiny, I'll you know, you can see here in the first side, I was writing a little tiny, and then I caught myself. And I recognized that I was doing that. And I started writing a little bigger, just a little. You know, it's an improvement. We'll get there. We're working on it. But I figured for now, I'll just leave you with that. I have a couple ideas for stuff I'd like to talk about. Yeah, I think I'll just see you in the next one. Alright.